hope you guys are doing great. This is Africa, and today we're going to be reacting to another Weebo Union videos. Let's go.
This one, it is a very interesting one because we are now seeing the prelude to the great Ukrainian offensive, the one that we have been expecting and waiting for a very long time, and it is now beginning. It hasn't begun yet, but it is beginning. And what do I mean by that? It is the current situation. The Ukrainian forces are launching probing attacks across the whole front from Bakhmut and down to the southwest of Uledar in the border between Donetsk and Zaporizhia. So this is very interesting because we are seeing a lot of attacks across the whole front line, but there's no actual advance. That is because we're currently seeing probing attacks. The Ukrainians are sending very limited forces to the front line to attack Russian positions, to check their readiness and their capabilities. They want to see how fast will Russia respond to these developments. And even better outcome for them would be if this is a feint and that they're attacking elsewhere, then Russia may send additional troops to this area, which would weaken other parts of the front line. So essentially, this is the initial stage of an offensive. In this part, the Ukrainians will launch very limited personnel and equipment to the front line to attack in different parts. We're seeing attacks both in the north by Bakhmut against Soledar and the south and the north of the flanks of Bakhmut. And we're seeing attacks to the southeast and southwest of Uledar and across the whole front line between Uledar and Velika Novosilka. And then west of Velika Novosilka, there's heavy fighting. So across this whole part, we see that the Ukrainians can advance within any of these parts and they would still be able to launch their offensive from there. So essentially, they're checking which of these parts is the most vulnerable, which of these parts can they take advantage of to then push through and launch their offensive from there. That is because their objective is to cut the land bridge between the Russian country itself and Crimea, which needs them to take this area here, either through Melitopol, Mariupol, or just the open fields in between. So for that, in my previous video where I covered the Ukrainian offensive, the goal would be to get Berdyansk. If they can cut this area right here, then that is enough. They don't need to go through the cities, which are more heavily defended. So for that, they would need to go through the most vulnerable points. If you draw the Russian defensive lines in a very simple manner, they have essentially 5 lines of defense here in the west, and then it's the first line goes longer, the second one shorter, the third, and so on. So the further west you go, the more difficult it is to push through the Ukrainian defenses. And if they push through the eastern parts, we will see that the Russian forces are much softer there. The Ukrainians will easily push through. So they're looking to push through at the weakest point of the Russian defenses, which is here to the east. And that is also what all military analysts have been saying for the past 24 hours, but I've been saying it for weeks. So essentially, we're seeing that the Russian forces are trying to push back all of these attacks. So far, it seems that the Ukrainian forces have taken the village of Novopil and that they're attacking in the direction of Novodonetsk, where they may have entered the village here to the
The legendary A-10 Warthog arrives in the War Thunder online action game. The sound of a 7
east. So that is the advances they have made. Other than that, the Ukrainians have been held back and all other points, the Russians are able to hold them back. And then we see this chronicle of pictures right here, where we see a lot of lost Ukrainian equipment. In the first picture here, we see 5 different vehicles. In the second one, we see another 2, and then in the third one, we get another 2, and then finally we got the final parts. So there's a lot of equipment lost. I think here in total it is about 10. So there's a lot of equipment lost in these attacks. This is west of the Velika Novosilka, so in this area right here. It was geolocated to be right here. So there's a lot of losses that comes with these